The incompetence of the US government, we all know about it. But there's levels to it, I would say, and this is reaching new heights. So, what happened? Well, these unemployment numbers and these job creation numbers, well, they were not that good as they said. They actually had to correct them because they're like, oops, there was an error. So these numbers, these job creations, there were 100,000 less than they've actually claimed. I don't know how that happens. I can see 10,000, 20,000 more. Oops, a decimal spot moved, something like it. But the incompetence of this is crazy. So let's watch this video and, well, look at it afterwards, right?
Hear that the government in their employment statistics just rounded down, gave a little haircut to the past 2 months, revising the number downwards 100,000 jobs. Oopsie daisy. And in the last 14 out of the last 15 months, they also revised the number down. Of course, always after the fact. Now, 3/4 of these jobs, or 75% of them, were government jobs or healthcare jobs. And it reminds me of this quote, that the only statistics that I trust are the ones that I falsify, because the government now is so desperate and they're...
So now you heard it. And I actually fact checked this on and what's funny is you can't really find these numbers unless you go to the unemployment website, and then it will actually give it. But everywhere else, they're not correcting the numbers and saying, hey, this isn't great. And what's really, really mind-boggling to me is that people take these facts, these numbers, and then they make decisions based off of those numbers. So what is crazy is that the federal government puts out these numbers, right? And then the Fed comes in and says, oh, these job creations are great. We don't need to lower interest rates and all that, even though that these numbers are not correct. So now I'm looking at it, what else is not correct? So let's look at what other people have to say. So when they were saying there was 9% inflation, right? I have some groceries, a grocery list right here. And as you can see, yogurt in 2022 was $3.64. Now it's $5.33. Orange juice, $1.70. Now it's $3.98, almost $4. Chips, barbecue, $1.33. Now $3. So all of these things went up like crazy, but inflation was only 9%. And I get it, they put it in a basket of good and then they come up with a mixed number. But if you can't do simple math and see how many job creation there were, how are you going to do this? How are you going to figure out how much inflation went up and how much inflation went down, right? So now let's watch another video, and we're going to talk about this one also. And this is from the Fed chair. Let's look at it.
The economy is growing now at about 1.5% in the first half of the year. Most forecasters have about a 2% growth rate for the full year. The labor market, again, has moved into better and better balance to the point where I think you can now say it's essentially no tighter than it was in 2019 before the pandemic. Remember that the labor market of 2019 was a very strong labor market. So we're back to that place, no longer overheated.
Okay, so you guys heard it. You heard it right out of the horse's mouth. You heard it. You heard it. He said that the labor market's great. It's back to 2019 levels. I don't think so, buddy. Where do you get your sources from? Can you cite those sources? Because I'd love to see where you get those. Because I'm seeing stuff like this. And when you look at so many people applying for a burger joint, fast food, and I can't, verify that, right? I can't really say that, this is wrong, but I've seen it. I see LinkedIn, I see these easy applies, and I see how many people are hurting, right? So wouldn't surprise me if this is going to continue, that in a few years we're all jobless and we're all going to be living off the government. Because the way that they took something great in 2019, said, this is going too great, too many people have jobs. We had the working people had the upper hand. And we were like, yeah, this is going in the right direction, we're making money and all that kind of other stuff. Then they said, we have too much power. Let's increase interest rate, take the whole economy, throw it in the trash can, and then toss that trash can across the street and says, we don't need that in here. And I'm like, man, you ruined something that was so great. And Yeah, I can't believe it. Can't believe it. So now let's look at what this results into, right? Let's see what this results into. Because this all has effects, right?
You guys ever heard of a promotion with a pay decrease? You heard me right, a pay decrease and not a pay increase, because that happened to me. They weren't supposed to give you that much when you first got hired. I was like, how's that my problem? I'm an hourly full-time worker and I don't get paid that much to begin with, so having a $2 pay decrease is kind of a lot. And I still work there. And I live paycheck to paycheck, nonetheless in Boston, so it's extremely hard, and I feel like I need a second job now.
So I keep talking about the 6-day work week. And I was wrong. You don't need to work 6 days. You're going to work 7 days a week because you're going to need a second job. Just like this person said that they found out that she's making too much. So when she got promoted, they looked at them and said, oh, you're making too much. So then they're like, oh, we're going to give you a raise with more responsibility, but we're also going to deduct your pay. And I don't know how this is legal, to be honest. She should probably contact a lawyer, but nowadays you got to be so worried and so on alert because it's easier for them to fire you and you have a way harder time of finding another job than just eating what they're serving you and just being like, you know what, I'm just gonna deal with it for now and ride it out 9 months because it's not that great, right? So when you're looking at all this, there is no competence in the US government basically providing all these numbers. And the sheer mind-boggling thing is that the Jerome Powell and all these other people take this as, as pure form as it is and be like, there's no margin of error. There's nothing wrong with all these numbers. And they don't even think that there could be a mistake, right? So if you say, we don't see that, we can't, we're gonna monitor it tight. No, you're not doing shit. You're just waiting for the numbers to come out. And then you're like, oh, it's looking great, The labor market's tight. We got all this growth going on, so we don't need to worry about nothing. But the truth of the matter is that it is actually horrible. It is actually horrible. When you have 30-something thousand people applying for a fast food job, we're in trouble. And I get it, these people are going to be frustrated. And then you see these people that are saying, these Jamie Dimons, these CEO, there's still COVID money around. There's still all this crazy thing. There's money around, it's the economy's on an upward trend, but people aren't buying. But these people that are in these circles, they're fine, If you own a bank, if you're part owner of a bank, do you seriously think you're going to ever hit hard times? Unless your bank goes belly up, you're going to be fine. And even if your bank goes belly up, the new bank that's going to buy you is, you're just going to be part of that new bank. You're going to get a board seat. You're going to get all these crazy things. And they're just going to let you have a board seat. And they're actually probably going to thank you. They're probably going to thank you and say, this is great. You did so good. Now we have another bank. And now you're going to get a board seat, stocks, and no harm, no foul, right? So pretty devastating when you really, really think about it. And somebody said to me the other day, like, there's going to be so much unemployment, there's almost going to be a revolution. And I can see that, not in the form of that people are going to revolt with pitchforks. But when you have no job, no way of providing it, everything is through the roof. And there's no way that inflation was only 9%, right? They corrected the math somehow. They cooked the numbers. They, who knows how they even came up with nonsense like that. And when you look at it, it's all government jobs and healthcare. There was no other jobs in there. Yeah, because nobody else is hiring. Not even fast food. So it is absolutely detrimental that you guys get your resume ready. You guys get your networking ready and start doing it now because you don't know if you're going to be next or not. And it is not fun, making these videos about exposing like, hey, these are the numbers. I'd rather be reporting on hey, this company is hiring, 32,000 people. Everybody should put in their resume, and, and we're all going to make some money, and we're all going to be like, yo, what are we buying? What are we buying? And doing things like that. But no, instead we're making these videos, and I'm seeing these comments of people struggling so much that they can't, that they can't pay their bills. And there's 30,000+ people trying to get a fast food job. I mean, 32,000 people. That is nuts. So I can't, verify or anything, but why would that person lie? But it's not the only comments I've seen like that, right? And so I also asked you guys what you guys would cut out for for living expenses, and if you're going to cut streaming services. And people said they've already cut it since they saw this coming down the road. And I think this is pretty smart, because you need to get your finances ready. You need to get out of debt. You need to save an emergency fund, however much you need. And then you gotta keep some money stacked up for groceries and all that other stuff, so you can keep the roof over your head, and try to keep as much investments as you possibly can. So when this old thing's gonna take off again, there's cycles that you're ready to pull and bounce on these opportunities that are gonna come, because there are gonna come opportunities, but you just need to be ready and to take them, right? So if you can't take these opportunities when they're going to arrive, it's not going to be good, because there's going to be a slow tide coming up. And so that's why I was wondering, when is little Powell going to raise going to decrease, not raise. He's going to decrease the interest rate, because it's about time. It is about time that he's going to lower it, because it's been for way too long. It's been high way too long. Instead of just increasing it, when you look at the curve, like when he started to increase it, he should have done that way, way earlier. But then we had COVID, right? And so they were like, so much free money, and people were having a good life, and, all that nonsense. And now they're like, oh my gosh, we can't do it. And one thing that I've also wanted to tell you guys about is that we're not manufacturers in the United States. People always say, oh, our economy is based off of consumerism. Yeah, we're innovators. We develop products, and then we outsource in other countries to manufacture. So we have the creative thinking of actually making these products. So we have the people, the designers, the visionaries, the people that come and say, this iPhone could really do this, or this Samsung phone could really do that. Those people we have, and they come up with the design. That's why when you look at the iPhone, it says designed in California. That's where we design the stuff, right? That's where we design the Apple Watch. That's where we come up with these grandiose designs. And you know what high interest rate does? It makes it hard to borrow money. And when you have a hard time borrowing money, then you cannot put that much money into innovation, right? And what that does is, when you have a hard time of making innovations, you're giving other countries an upper hand to come up with their own great technology and have them be innovators, because we're not manufacturing anymore, right? So we're giving all out, we're sourcing everything out in manufacturing. So now we're just hanging on, right? We're like, oh man, these designers, these innovators, that's no good. They're done. We got to let them go, because it's too costly to borrow the money. But what's going to be even more costly for us is if we're going to lose the technology edge, right? So if we're going to lose the technology advancement that we had and all that kind of other stuff to other countries because their interest rate isn't that high, then we're going to be in trouble. And when you look at these big companies, they can always buy the competitors, right? And that's what's Google doing right now. They're buying Wiz or doing something like it, because they're eating too much market share. So then the Google's like, let me just buy them. It's easier for us to buy them than compete with them, so we just absorb them. But if they miss the ball, right? And there's been opportunities where Mark Zuckerberg could have bought TikTok, and he didn't, because he missed the ball. And now TikTok is one of the biggest video creator platforms out there. And so then the only thing you have left is banning it. And they did that with Huawei or whatever that name is, right? Because it is so bad for, they're spying on us and doing all that. No, they're not. They don't give a shit for what most Americans do. They were just worried that their technology advancement are too great. So, yeah, that is pretty much it. And yeah, we got to get those interest rates down, or we are done as a nation, baby. We are going to be falling like dominoes, one by one. And your neighbor's going to cause you to fall, and you're going to cause this other guy to fall, and so on, so be it, right? So this is it for this video. Today I'm not doing too much in Switzerland, so if you want to zoom out and be, for the information, just here for the info, that is it. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about Switzerland, so if you want to stay tuned, stay tuned. So yeah, Switzerland has some crazy great ideas, like for people asking me in the other comments, like, hey, why is transit coming so quick? It's because it's such a dense population in such a small space. This would never ever work in the United States. You cannot have, it works in like New York where it's so congested and there's everywhere, there's like family buildings. But in the US, at houses like this would never ever exist because, they're single family, right? And these are apartments. And so when you live in apartments, it's way easier to get transport to apartments, because there's so many people living in it than it would be single family homes, right? The suburban areas are just so much harder to get, public transportation to than it is to, blocks like this, like to get all these people, just needs to be a bus stop right here and all these people can, go to work. So, and what Switzerland is actively doing is making it harder for you to drive into the city, so they don't want you to have cars. So all these cars here need to be moved all the time because, they have a little cart there and they can only stay for a few hours. And so they're making it so hard on you and they keep taking away parking spots so you can, you know, you can take the public transit. And public transit is quite expensive, but if you use it every day, it's kind of cheaper than owning a car, right? So yeah, and if you're seeing this video, I have another week in Switzerland before I go home to Las Vegas, and you guys then to see Las Vegas content again, where I'm back home in my hometown. I'm ready. It's always raining here. It's cold. No, it's actually muggy. It's not cold. It's freaking muggy. Normally it's cold. That's why I'm so used to saying it. It's cold, but it's rainy, muggy, and yeah, this is summer in Switzerland. Gorgeous time, but man, the rain is just killing it, killing the vibes. So let me know what you guys think about all this, but interest rates need to come down quick before the whole economy is just going to collapse in itself. So this was it. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see ya in the next one.